What's up, gang? Welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius and Shaahin. I'm so pumped to have you here with me. Now, listen, the Greatness Machine, we're about two things. Number one, people who are living their passions. And number two, those who are creating greatness in the world and doing both of these things despite the odds against them. Each episode, we're going to feature interviews with game changers, business leaders, telling us their origin stories, what made them tick, what got them to where they are now. Why? So it can help you step into your greatness within your life, your business, and your career. Occasionally, you might hear a few solo episodes from myself, moi, as I say, as I leverage my 20 years of entrepreneurship as a CEO and founder to help you grow and level up in your journey to scale your life and your business. So, come be a fly on the wall, enjoy the conversation, and I'm stoked to have you here with me. Guys, welcome to today's episode of The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius and Shaahin. And boy, do we have a special guest. My main man, Shaahin Cheyene, is in the house. What's up, Shaahin?
What's up, Darius? Good to be on.
Dude. Oh, man, I'm so fucking fired up to have you here today, man. It's going to be so fun.
That answers my first question of if I can curse on your show. So let's go. I'll see how many F-bombs I can do.
You know what's funny is I normally don't start with those, but I just felt like called to say fuck.
Let's go. Let's go. We're two brothers on the show. Let's make it happen.
It's just been one of those weeks, when like the only thing that makes you feel good inside is a nice fuck you to the world. Oh, hey, people that are driving their kids to school today, earmuffs. So first of all, Shaahin, I'm so pumped to have you here, man. I've been like, we're gonna talk in a second about how Shaahin got on the show, but Shaahin's got an incredible story and an incredible team, and I didn't realize that his team helped him get on the show, but so we get a lot of inbounds for the show, as you guys all know, the listeners. I always tell people it is kind of a pain in the ass to get on the show because here's Shaahin. I'm going to tell you the real reason because I didn't even tell you any of this when we were pre-show. So here's the real reason. Like I look at this three ways. Number one is the person who I'm bringing on the show, like, can I use their, like, are they famous? So I can put their name on like my list so I can go hit up somebody else and be like, hey, like Moby did the show. And I'm like, hey, Moby did the show, or like Seth Godin, or, Gabby Reese, or, Bruce Buffer, like someone where like they have some like pretty solid like brand recognition. Right. And those are a couple people. I just booked Susie Orman. She's going to be on the show. Right. So like people know who Susie Orman is. And so that's, if you're famous, you get on the show because I'm like, dude, I don't know, like maybe they're cool. But at least I can leverage that to get on. And then there's like 99% of the rest of the people where our names don't really mean anything, like we're cool dudes, but like most people probably don't know who we are, for the most part. And so then it's like, okay, did I read your book or do I listen to your podcast, or like, did you do something like extraordinary where I'm like, oh man, who's this person? And dude, you fall into the last category, which is like you did some really cool shit. And even then though, I'm not familiar with it on the like your work. Like it wasn't like I was like, oh, like I read your book and I wanted to find out, although you have a book and we'll be talking about that. It was like you did it the hard way, which is you have a PR team that's out there pounding the pavement promoting your work. So his PR team hit me up and they're like, and I'm going to talk about your formal bio in a second, but he's got Shaahin has a very interesting bio. And I'm like, this guy's pretty interesting. Now, here's how this really works, listeners, if you want to get on a podcast and you have kind of a cool story. People that have a good show are like, that's interesting, huh? Then we get busy with other shit and we go and then we ignore it, right? Or we'll remember depending on what's happening that day. I think your team hit me up from the first time I saw your bio and I was like, that looks interesting, to the time that I responded, they must hit me up 5 times. At least 5 times between the first, I think this might be interesting, to the, I'm going to book this dude. And so dude, your team did a great job because it's hard to get on the show, and I appreciate the effort. So thank you for having them do that because they're rock stars. And Fid is the girl that did it. Is it a woman? Is that right?
Yeah, she's a woman, right? She identifies as a woman.
She identifies as one. Fid,
she's actually a woman. She's actually a woman.
She's actually one, like biologically speaking. By the way, like Trump's in office, so none of that stuff. We don't have any of that shit anymore. There's only 2 pronouns now. So guys, I'm gonna give you Shaahin's formal bio here, but yeah, man, your team did a great job. So you like I was like, yeah, let's get him on. So here we are. So guys, first and foremost, Shaahin is the creator of Herbal Ecstasy. And so like, you guys might remember this. Like if you're, does it even exist anymore?
Not in the way that we knew it. So the answer is no. The original formula no longer exists, unfortunately. Most
I'm
of the
so excited to
ingredients are
talk
there.
about this because my brother and I bought Herbal Ecstasy when we went to like gas stations in the '90s, like no one's business. And so that, by the way, that was the end of it. I was like, I got to meet this dude. Like, I remember like going to raves with me and my friends, and we would like buy maybe the real stuff too, maybe not. But yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, that's so cool. And you built this huge business, which was 100% legal smart drug that happened. And so we'll be talking about that. Founder of Podcast Cola, which is it's the world's largest podcast agency, and CEO and chairman of Accelerated Intelligence, an Amazon and marketing advertising agency. So did I miss anything, Shaahin? I know you have a book. We can name that one if you want.
Yeah, I got a book called Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Cult. It's going to become a film soon. Paris Hilton's company, 1110 Productions, is producing it along with Believe Entertainment. So there'll be a major motion picture. It's kind of like, I guess, Wolf of Wall Street meets Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Kind of cool. And that'll be out in the next couple years. They're in pre-production right now.
Nice.
So, but
that's cool, man.
Audible book is out there. Yeah. So
very cool. Let's talk so look here at the Greatness of She, man. We love, I mean, that's about 2.5 minutes longer than my normal intros, just because I was so like ecstatic around your story. But why don't we talk a little bit? I'd love to kind of go into the direction of your origin story. I mean, most people don't end up with these crazy lives. Now, let me preface this, guys. Shaahin and I are both Persian, so like there's automatically love between us because Persians love each other, like no matter what. We are the most interesting ethnicity on the planet, self-proclaimed. Best food, best looking women, best dancing. I mean, the only thing we don't have going for us is a country we can go to without there being problems. But, hopefully that'll change soon. Anyway, I'd love if you gave us some of your origin story, man. I know you and I share some overlap with our origin story coming from Iran, but would love if you could educate our audiences. How'd you get to where you got to?
Sure. So I left home when I was really young. I had a life of juvenile delinquency and deviation when I was a child, right? We came here from Iran. My parents were poor. I wouldn't even say middle class, although I always thought we were middle class. Turns out we were poor. Grew up in an enclave of Los Angeles called Pacific Palisades. And it used to be, not very fancy place. Turned out it was super fast gentrified. And growing up in that area, I looked around and was like, dude, like there's all this wealth, right? Like we never ate at restaurants. My dad worked at a dry cleaners and a pizza shop. And like the clothes we had were clothes that customers left behind from 3 seasons ago. That's what I would wear to school. We never ate out. I didn't even know what a restaurant was. And I started looking at all this wealth that was growing up around me. Like the guy next door now has a Porsche and a blonde and he's driving down PCH. And, I'm like, whoa, I want access to that. How do I get that? And of course, going to Persian parents, they were like, well, it is easy. Just be a doctor. And I said, what? They said, yes, just be a doctor. I was like, all right, cool. How do I do that? They were like, well, go across the street, talk to Mr. Tehrani. I was like, all right, cool. Let me go talk to that dude. This how hard can this be? So I went next door and there's the dude. He's angry. He's smoking a cigarette. He's some kind of doctor. I don't know. He's like a heart doctor or something. And then he's fat and bald and smoking. The wife is fat and bald and smoking. The kids are fat and bald and smoking. I just looked at them and it was like, they're all yelling at each other. It was like terrible. He had a Mercedes and he had a fat house. And I was just like, fuck this. I'm out. So I bailed. At that time, I thought, you know what? Like, I'm either going to make it or I'm going to die, but I'm going to die trying. So I went off on my own. This was LA in the early 90s. I was just a kid. I was like 15, 16. And I got involved in the rave electronic music scene, the dance scene that you were talking about at that time, which was burgeoning. And they told me, they were like, hey, if you want to, you can get into any of these clubs. You just, you help the promoters, you can get into the clubs for free. So I started hanging out at the clubs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself, right? I had no money. I was sleeping on couches on the beach, like wherever I could lay down. And eventually behind the speakers at the clubs, because the clubs would start late and end in the morning. And it was the ideal place to crash out. And I started looking around and I thought to myself, well, who's making the money here? So I looked at the DJs. I was like, yeah, those are some broke ass motherfuckers. And then I looked at the club promoters. I was like, that's it. You gotta like, you promote a club, that's you make so much money. And I was like, nope, broke ass motherfuckers. Usually like skip town before paying people, like not good. So how are these clubs continuing? How is this whole scene being subsidized? Like, how is it working? Can you take a guess how?
Drug dealing.
That is correct. It was the people dealing the drugs, but particularly one drug in particular called ecstasy. And there, in my juvenile mind, I thought to myself, man, that's all I got to do. That's very easy. It ticks all the boxes, right? I'll get rich, don't have to work because I'm a little lazy, and it'll be fantastic, right? I'll get the girls, I'll get the cars. And then I looked back to my life of crime as a juvenile in school where we would do shit and always fucking get caught. Like, there was just no thing that I ever did where we did not get caught. So I thought to myself, well, if that's how it's going to go down, I probably should not be involved in crime. Crime is a bad idea for me. And it hit me. I was like, well, what if I could be a legal drug dealer? What if I could do this without the crime element? So it occurred to me that, hey, maybe I could make a version of ecstasy that's legal, that's safe. And I just began on that journey because nobody told me how to do it. I managed to somehow get myself a girlfriend. Don't ask me how I did that. Her father was like some superintendent of schools somewhere. So he would leave out the front door. She would sneak me in through the back, and we'd be cooking it up in her kitchen, trying to figure out how we could do it, just mixing herbs and figuring it out until I finally came up with a formula that worked. We tested it on all the delinquents in the neighborhood, and it worked great. And
wait,
so
can I ask a question? I gotta ask
Yeah.
a question. What was the name? Like, what type of stuff were you guys putting in your herbal concoction?
And my herbal concoction. So one of the key ingredients was something called ephedra, which is kind of like yeah, it had some caffeine. Most of the stuff is illegal now, but it had a bunch of ingredients that we were able to sell back then in the 90s and really had extraordinary effects.
Dude, so ephedra, just so you guys know, like I just had to say this. So I was in college in the mid '90s, and there was this thing called mini thins. Do you remember mini thins?
Oh yeah,
it was ephedra, and so you take them to stay up all night to study, and it turns out that this is like a key ingredient in making meth.
Oh,
but it's legal. You can buy it at like gas stations, right?
Yeah.
So you guys put ephedra in your herbal ecstasy. That was probably one of the main ones.
Yeah, so I think it's like, we don't have to get into it, but there's a little difference between using herbs and using synthetics, and that stuff is mostly synthetic. My stuff was all natural herbs.
Oh, okay.
But interestingly enough, so, I made it. I took it to the clubs. I remember it all comes down to this one day where I walked up to this drug dealer. I mean, he was sweating. The supply of ecstasy had dried up. I was in the right place at the right time. And a couple girls walked up to him. They said, hey, do you have the product? He looked at them, putting his hands up like, no, I don't have it. And that's when I stepped in, and he took mercy on me, or he was going to kill me, one or the other. And it was the most tense, hour of my life. He wouldn't let me leave until he was sure it worked. And it worked. He took the entire bag that I had produced at that time. I didn't even have enough money to make them into capsules, so we would roll them into balls and put them in an oven to try to make them look like capsules. Like I didn't have the $150 to buy the machine to actually press them into capsules. And I found distribution through an illicit network of drug dealers that basically had run out of inventory. Perfect timing. When we talk about being in a flow state, I was in the right time, at the right place, with the right product, with the right people. And I remember just about a month later, I was driving around in my car with a briefcase. I had a pager. You remember those fucking things? I had a pager, and people would page me, and I would show up, and I would drop off a briefcase full of pills and go home with a briefcase full of cash. And I did that for a couple of years. Did they understand
that this shit was, that you were making illegal stuff, or did they not know that?
No, they understood. I explained to them that it was all legal and that, I wasn't about the life of what they're doing. And a lot of them became legitimized. A lot of them were like, fuck this. We don't want to go to jail. We don't want to this is, we just weren't offered an alternative in life. So I made them into distributors. I built an entire network of thousands of distributors all over the world who no longer were selling illicit stuff, but rather selling natural stuff. And that was the beginning.
What was the biggest, like, remember guarana? There was guarana.
Sure. Yeah.
Was that
good memory?
Was that one of your ingredients?
That's right. Yeah, it had that in it. It had ephedra in it. There's a bunch of stuff in there that now increasingly is harder to get. And yeah, you can get it in some countries, but in the U.S., it's very difficult to get some of the key ingredients that we used in those days.
Dude, it's so funny. So when I was in college was right when Red Bull started coming out, and there was one guarana competitor of Red Bull that had guarana in it, and I was like, I remember the shit because this is 20, but God, now it's almost 30 years ago.
Yeah,
it's so funny, man. That was such a part of that time. Hey, so do you remember? So I was one of the idiots that became a club promoter out of college, and through like raves, I actually lost my first 6 figures doing that because I didn't realize that the club promoters didn't make money on the clubs; they made money on the drugs, and I was not a drug. I wasn't a drug dealer, so that didn't help me too much. I'm like, man, this is a lot of fucking work to fill this place up and break even. I don't get it. Like, how is it possible I'm selling out and I break even every time? Like, I swear to God, do you remember the place on Hollywood Boulevard, the knitting factory?
Yeah.
Dude, I would throw parties there, like huge house parties there, like with great DJs, like from Chicago House legends, like Gene Ferris and Roy Davis Jr. and Richard Humdivision, Vision, all these people, right? And I'd bring them all in, and I'd bring them to the knitting factory, sell it out, and then break even. And I was like, I don't get this. This is such a weird. And then I learned. I was like, oh. And by the way, some of these people now, Electric Daisy Carnival, EDC, like that dude was like Pasquale, right? That dude was like, he had a massive drug dealing network.
Pasquale was my neighbor. He lived 2 doors down from me.
Yeah, dude, that guy, I mean, he's legit now, but like, this is like, over 30 years ago. Like, dude, I don't know if it was him, but I knew a lot of the people in there making money doing that stuff. And I was like, oh, this is how they make money. I'm like, I'm not doing that,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny you said that. Did you ever go, there was a place, I'm just texting my brother, my twin brother was my partner in this. We had this company called Got DJs. It was like when Got Milk came out. So ours was called Got DJs, but there was a place on Hollywood on Tuesday nights where it was all house music at this place called Charlie Brown's. You know what I'm talking about?
I do remember that. Yeah.
It was a really popular party on Tuesday nights. We
probably ran into each other at some point. I bet you.
Yeah. Anyway, I lost. And then remember there was a place called Giant and Saturday nights called Giant.
Yes, I do remember that. That was on Santa Monica Boulevard
that was like the first big mega. It was like the first big like European mega club in LA.
Yeah.
That they did. I can't remember the guy that did it, but I tried doing a Friday night club that was like Giant at the Hollywood Athletic Club, and I got murdered. It was called Vapor.
Terrible business. It's a terrible business. Terrible business, right? But I fast forwarded straight through to the good stuff and figured out a way to do it where I didn't have the complications that most people had.
Oh, such a bad business. So the good thing of it is it got me out of the business. But so how big did you? Obviously, Herbal Ecstasy it was called Herbal Ecstasy, right? If I remember correctly.
So I'll tell you. So I was in my office. I was probably 18, 19, and the news broke that we had surpassed $1 billion in revenue with a B. Now you got to remember, Darius. This is before Facebook, before TikTok, before Instagram. This is before any of that stuff. Social media didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. Not really. Right? Nobody was really
it was all internet. It was all porn.
Yeah, there was nothing like we have now. And we had done $1 billion. And here I am in my office. The news broke. The news crews are all waiting outside. I was on Nightline, on all those shows. And my biggest concern, I was so nervous about it, was that I had no idea how much $1 billion actually was, because I had never gone to school. I sucked at math, and I was drifting through life. We were making so much money. And I talk about this in my book, Billion, How I Became King of the Triple Cult. I talk about it, and I functioned on something called suicide margins, which basically was money solves all problems. And if there's a problem that money can solve, you don't really have a problem. And we made so much money that there wasn't a problem that we couldn't solve by throwing more money at it. It was easier to make more money than to deal with problems in other ways at that time.
So hold on, let me back up for a second. So
Yeah.
So like obviously like you don't go from hand pressing pills in your oven to $1 billion in sales like overnight.
Yeah.
Did you have like a massive manufacturing facility and you're making all
That's
this
right.
stuff? Like tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
So everything changed, and we signed up with several manufacturers that we shipped the formula to. We had several because just in case something went wrong or they shut down one of them, we would have the risk distributed. So we had maybe a dozen manufacturers all over the country and all over the world, actually, including Japan, Europe, everywhere. And just like Coca-Cola, the manufacturing plants would produce the product, and then we would ship it. We had retail distribution. We were in 7-Elevens where you said you got it in. Urban Outfitters carried it. GNC stores carried it. We sold at Warehouse Records. Do you remember Warehouse Records?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. So we sold at Warehouse Records. We sold at, there was so many different retailers. I think at one count, we were in over 30,000 retail outlets. We went on tour with all the big concerts. Remember Lollapalooza? We were on tour with Lollapalooza, the Beastie Boys and Perry Farrell, and the Beastie Boys were taking it on stage there. So there was a lot of action going, and it really it took a couple years to get to that point, but once the distribution became mainstream and the news started reporting on us, I was on the press every single day. So every single day.
How old were you? How old are you at this point?
I started when I was like 15, 16, and I ran the company until I was in my early 20s.
Wow. So the company was like, when you say $1 billion in revenue, is that like over the like cumulative, or like how much were you doing in revenue per month at its peak?
I don't know how much I was doing. It was a long time ago, so I have no idea how much we were doing per month. But I do know that we had from inception to that date broken over $1 billion in revenue, and the margins were crazy. It was costing me, Darius, it was costing me 25 cents a unit, and we were retailing it for $20 to $30 all day long. And most of it was cash business. People would even come to our office and we'd be like, great. They'd be like, hey, sell us 1,000. I'd be like, cool, here's 1,000, and they gave us, they'll drop 10, 20 grand, whatever it is, and and be off on their way. So it was a big business, and everybody wanted it, and everybody wanted a piece, and it was everywhere. And when we ran out, there was a big freak out.
So it's, I feel like there's like a something bad happened moment here. Because like if you do $1 billion of revenue, it's high margin, like it's like kind of set, like what happened in your early 20s? Like what happened? Because I don't remember that business. I don't remember what happened to that business. I'm curious what happened. What's the end result? Did you sell the business? Did you blow the business up? Give us the punchline.
So when you're young and you make money like seemingly out of nowhere, and everything you touch turns to gold, and you get in that flow state where like nothing can hurt you, people get jealous. And I had a lot of people steal from me millions of dollars. I had attorneys and accountants steal from me. I had, the typical, thing that you get with fame. And then I spent a lot of time doing something I shouldn't have, which is fighting the government, right? The government is a game of cat and mouse of them, making these orders, banning our main ingredient, and then I'd come up with a different ingredient, and then they would ban that, and then I would come up with something else, and they would ban that, and lots of lawsuits, and chasing the government for this, for that, for the other thing. Nobody ever got hurt from our product. Nobody ever had an issue with it. But the problem was that I was going against the U.S. government and whatever other governments were coming after us, and after a while, it got tiring. So that was the main thing.
So what year did you start? It sounds like this started in like the mid 90s. Is that right?
Early 90s. Yeah. I think like maybe 92, 93, somewhere around there.
Oh, by the way, the name of the party was called Release. That was on Tuesday nights.
Sounds like a house party. Yeah.
It was a really fun house party. I texted my brother, I'm like, what was the name of that place we used to go to? Release. So what, so you, like early 90s, you start this thing in your kitchen. You're super entrepreneurial. You're a kid just trying to make a buck. You blow this thing up to doing over $1 billion of revenue. And you know, it's funny enough, you're talking to someone that's actually built a business that did over $1 billion in revenue too. So
Wow.
I've done it as well. It's hard to do that, right? And so and to do it at that age, it's like almost like accidental, right? Like you just right place, right time.
There's no
And,
formula.
you know,
There's no formula
for
that.
You caught the wave, right?
Yeah.
I wish I could say it was that easy for me. It definitely wasn't. But to your point, like you were young, you didn't know any better. You fought the government, which is clearly a bad move. But you know, like, what were you going to do? You did what you had to do. What ended up happening? Like, how did you got tired from it? Did you just shut the thing down? Did you sell it? Like, what?
Yeah, I sold parts of it. Parts of it, I just, wind it down, and I still have the assets of the like actual physical brand and the brand name and stuff. But there's going to be a film on it. But yeah, eventually I kind of let it fizzle out, and then I moved on to inventing all the technology that people use now for vapes. And I basically every modern vape that you see now arose from technology that I built. I had the first vape company ever to go public. It was the first vape ever, and we built that. I built that in the early 2000s, like close to actually like 99, 98, 99 to 2000. And that company I exited in 2006, was a really nice exit, very successful, and moved on to doing Amazon shortly thereafter. But
Nice.
the vaporization was a big deal for me because I wanted to create a harm reduction measure for people who were smoking, right? And you remember, people used to smoke. Now nobody smokes. People are like, "What? You stupid? What are you doing?" Back then, everybody smoked.
Yeah, dude. I remember when cigarettes used to be awesome. back when it was cool to smoke, man. Parliaments, baby. So I want to take a step back because I feel like there was a recipe here for amazing stories that we didn't get to tell. Like teenager business doing like tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in like short periods of time. Tons of profit. I mean, dude, that's a recipe for some crazy shit. Like, I can't believe like what's like give me some like highlights. Give me like one or two like morsels of craziness that happened. Like, what's like the craziest story that happened to you guys during that time?
Oh man, I mean, I write about them in my book, but a lot of it, a lot of crazy stuff happened in that time and in those days. Like, there was a period of time where the Japanese mob, the Yakuza, decided that they were going to take ownership of my company, and I had to fly to Japan to make sure that that didn't happen, which was a absolute insane time. I had a lawyer who, despite being an amazing person, was kind of a hippie, and just women everywhere, and doing some really wacky stuff for an attorney. There was tons of parties where people would end up in jacuzzis and naked on the top of a mountain somewhere. I lived in Topanga at a period of time. I had a home in Topanga, had a home in Malibu. So there were some like absolutely crazy times, but nothing really stands out more than just the general insanity of having that much money. I mean, I told somebody the other day that one of the craziest things after we did these shows, so we did these Lollapalooza shows, and I actually had to buy vans to carry back the cash, because you remember this was people had before people had Stripe, and credit cards were like a very common thing. So we actually had these vans that we bought that were filled with the revenue from the shows, and literally had it in duffel bags, and people bringing it back to our office in that time, like going back and forth, bringing that stuff to the office. And it was
That's
nuts. I
insane.
remember one day sitting in my office with a pile of duffel bags sitting behind me filled with cash, and just like thinking to myself, like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to like, what do you do with that much cash? Right? I didn't have a cash counting machine. I didn't have like any of that stuff, but I was just like looking behind me. It was just duffel bags of cash. And of course, a ton of that stuff would get stolen. And that was just the stuff that arrived at our office, right? God knows how much stuff people were stealing, how much stuff ended up with people. I mean, I had one employee that had a whole shtick where he would take the pills from our office and put them in a trash bag because he'd show up early because he was cleaning the office, and he would stuff them in a trash bag, put them in the back, and then his girlfriend would come with her rollerblades out the back, take the trash bags out, and same day sell them on Venice Beach.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, the good days of analog theft.
The good days of analog theft.
Yeah, that's so funny. So you know, that's crazy, man. How many employees did you guys get up to? How big was
we had over 200 at that time, and I'll tell you, Darius. Basically, anybody who could fog up a mirror basically worked for me in Venice. I mean, we had so much business that I would just hire anybody and everybody in the area to come work for me. All those buildings were filled with my employees.
That just sounds like a complete shit show.
What could possibly go wrong, right?
200 employees. You have no idea what you're doing with a business. It's all cash based. Like that just sounds like complete insanity. When you guys were distributing worldwide, how did you guys use like standby letter of credit? Like how are people paying you guys for that type of stuff? Like writing checks? Like
we were cash business, buddy. Cash. Yeah, the only people I would take checks from were the Japanese, right? Because the Japanese were very honest at that time, despite their connections with organized crime in Japan. Even the organized crime were very honorable. And I remember actually having this is another crazy moment, that I'm sitting in my office and I actually did a crazy thing. You probably would appreciate this. So this is definitely not Web 2.0 or 3.0. I had all this fancy furniture in my office, and I was like, my employees are just getting too fucking comfortable. So I came in overnight, I hired a moving truck, and I took out all the furniture and I donated it. And I said, you know what? You're all sitting on the floor. I even took out the water cooler. I said, no fucking water cooler for you. Everybody was complaining. And the first guy that complained, I'm like, there's the door. You're fired, right? Then there was a line outside, and I fired almost every single person in the company and brought back only the people who had humility and were like, okay, working without the furniture, right? And we had no furniture maybe for 2 months. I didn't bring it back until 2 months later. I had someone go buy new stuff. But that was kind of what I did. And so I'm upstairs in my office, and I didn't treat myself differently. I took all the furniture out of my office too. I'm like, I'm getting too fucking comfortable here, right? Because comfort isn't what got me to where I am, right? It's discomfort. It's doing difficult things. So I'm sitting up there in my office. I had a dog, a white albino pit bull, beautiful dog. And the dog comes and knocks down this like pile of papers, right? Because you remember back in those days, we just had paper. There was like paper everywhere. And I look in the papers, and there's a check. And it's an on-cash check from a Japanese client for $1 million, right? And I remember looking at that check. And remember, this is 90s money, so it's a lot more than today's money. I remember looking at that check and just throwing it back into the pile and moving on with my day. That's how irrelevant it was to me. And if you think back, just a year ago, I was sleeping on the beach.
That's so funny, man. Oh, that's a crazy story. So let me ask you a question, because having moved here from Iran, were you in Tehran? Where'd you grow up in Iran?
I was born in Tehran. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So, where is your family from? Tehran or from outside Tehran?
My family's from Tehran. Yeah.
Okay. My dad's family's from Isfahan, but we lived in Tehran for 6 months till they took hostages. And so you have a family, immigrant family. Like, and I think most people don't appreciate this. Coming to the United States, you guys came in 79. Did you guys come in after that?
We came here right at 79. Yeah, right during the Iranian Revolution.
Yeah, so that's right when we came back. And so if you can't, so I'm going to paint a picture for you guys. And this is, I was 1.5 years old, so I don't remember this, but this is me like kind of piecing my family history back together. If you moved from Iran in 1979, number one is that your currency was getting devalued like in half, if not more. So like people are like selling their money on the black market, selling their shit to get to escape, to try to like get the hell out of the country, to live a better life, right? This is what the average Iranian person was doing that was trying to come to the States if they had the ability to get here. They then come here, right? And I don't remember how many days it was, but there was like dozens and dozens and dozens of American hostages that were held in captivity for like a year or something like that. So if you're Iranian in the US in 1979, 1980, 1981, the whole country talks shit to you every fucking day. They like Iranian guys were like pretending like they weren't Iranian, right? Because they didn't like my dad, whose name is Hassan, went by the name Mike.
Like, everybody was Mike. Everybody was Mike.
Mike, you know, and you did what you had to do. My dad was educated and in the States, actually. He had an MBA from Chapman University. And he went and bought a gas station, which was actually pretty good for him to be able to do that because he had enough money to do that, you know?
Yeah.
But it was a fucking grind and a struggle. So your parents came here, worked hard jobs, you know, and you grew up in LA, which is not cheap. I had kind of a similar situation in that I grew up in an upper middle class area, but my dad was like, had like trauma from money. So he was like cheap as fuck about money. And so I grew up like, when my dad's like, you want money, you got to go find your own money. Like I'm not giving you any. And my dad had some money, but I grew up with friends driving Beamers and, you know, getting whatever the hell they wanted. And I remember thinking, I'm like, you know, like I don't have the same life as these people. Like I have to go work at the gas station for my summer vacations, you know, like my friends are going to fucking Raging Waters, you know? And so I'm curious, like how your parents, having grown up in that environment, and I laughed when you said your parents told you to become a doctor, because that's like what my dad told me to become, which is kind of hilarious. Like become a doctor or a lawyer if you're Persian, because there's you know, socially that's high up there, right? Right. How did they react to I mean, did you like take care of them? Did you give them money? Did they see you crushing it? And like, how did they react? How did your family react to you?
Yeah, I did that. You know, I mean, there was a period of time where I had to disconnect, right? Because it wasn't within their understanding of what I do. But eventually, you know, money cures all wounds. So, like, you know, once you're successful in a Middle Eastern family, you all of a sudden are like, "Welcome, son. You are our son," right? So, you know, money cures all evils when it comes to Asian families, Middle Eastern families in particular. So yeah, man, you know, I did all that stuff, and you know, I still, you know, take good care of my parents and my brother and my family, and you know, as I'm a father now, that's more important to me. But there was a period of time where I had to disconnect and find my own path, and I think that's one of the key things, right? Because you get a chance in your life, you get an opportunity, I feel, to follow the path that others want you to have, or to follow the path that's for your highest good. And if you make that right choice, you can really get into the flow. And that's what I did. Like, I feel like now, I don't know if you feel this way, because I know, Darius, you've had a lot of success, but I feel like all the success that I've had in life was from me creating that space, right? That blank space where I can create. And that blank space has to be free from other people's ideas of you, of what they want you to be and what they want you to do and what their expectations are of you. And for me, that required me disconnecting so I could reach the heights of what I knew was possible. And I think I did pretty good with it. I mean, I think I did fairly well. And as I'm getting older, I'm definitely reaching more for that flow state. And by the way, I teach people how to do this all the time. I have a course where I teach people how to start these Amazon companies and create predictable recurring revenue streams. I do that all the time. And my students, oftentimes I see them in situations where it's not conducive to them to grow. So if you're stressed, if money is a problem for you, if you know you've got a partner that's not supporting what your vision is of what you want your life to be, you're not going to succeed, right? So you have to find that space where the pressure is released, and then you can create. And if that's the kind of person that you are, like me and you were basically talking about resilience before, right? Like, I'm not the smartest guy, I know that. I'm not, you know, the most academic guy. I'm not the most technical guy. I can't like fix stuff or build shit worth shit. But I know what my strengths are, and I'm fucking resilient. right? And I feel like you're the same way. And I feel like
Yeah.
you can build resiliency. And if that's the case, then you just got to figure out how to get in that flow state. Your flow state is different for me, Darius, than it is for you, than it is for the people listening to this. And if you can do that, then that's a game changer. That's how you win. Because then you're acting, you're producing out of the highest level that you can do stuff, rather than, you know, coming from a place of need. Like, people wonder, oh shit, like they're desperate, and so they go out and they try to sell something and it doesn't work, and they're like, fuck, why didn't this work? And it's like, well, dude, you're coming out of desperation, right? It's like, you know, somebody who's you know, trying to get a hot girl, but they, you know, never had a girlfriend. They're so desperate, like you can smell it on them, right?
Yeah.
But the person that's relaxed and just like kicking back, and it doesn't matter, the outcome is assured, right? They know who they are, they know what they bring to the table. Boom. Those are the people that you and I both see succeeding in our lives, right? Like, I know lots of people that started from zero now and that are millionaires, and a few that are billionaires actually now.
Yeah, it's funny. What I've found, I mean, I've gotten to spend enough time with enough people that have been very, very successful that I've seen all kinds of. What I've also realized, there's all kinds of ways of becoming successful, and there's but I've seen there's a couple people I've seen where it appears to have came fairly easily for them, and it's because they've had this, like, to your point, this approach of like ease, right? They're kind of just like, they show up and they're being their best selves, and that attracts what it attracts. That ends up, and these are people that are doing it in the right way, and massive success. I have a friend, I won't say his name, but I saw him build a company, really high margin company. Let's say it's 65 to 70% net margin, not gross margin, net margin. Almost, and probably $7-8 million of revenue in like 1 year. This guy's making like $6 million profit. And dude, there's the best part: barely working, like working like 10 hours a week, maybe, you know. And I was so pissed. I was like, dude, you were making me feel stupid.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
And but like, and I was envious at first, and then I had this realization. I'm like, no, man. He did this, and by the way, that business grew to over 10 million in revenue. And the reason it didn't grow to more is because he's like, I don't want to work more than 15 hours a week. So he has this business making like $7-8 million a year, like called $7 million a year, barely working. and dude, he's having fun. Like he's having the time of his life. And I remember I was like, at first I was envious, and then I was like, no, Darius, don't be envious. Learn from this person. You know? Like, that's understand, right. like what's there to learn here? Because obviously this is not normal. And I found, like, I have a lot of friends. I have friends who, to your point, hundreds of millions of dollars on the quick road to becoming billionaires. Maybe you could arguably say they are, if you give enterprise value for some of the stuff they're doing. And dude, chill. They're like, it all just it flows like water to them. And what I've found is like, no, that doesn't mean that you don't have to work your ass off to get the skill sets, the knowledge, the understanding to then create value in the world that gives you that. All of them did that, and they grinded at certain parts in their life, but their biggest wins come easier than they should. And my realization was what you just said. It was like, because they approach it with surrender and ease and being themselves, and they're not trying to be something for someone else. Now, I will say all that, and I've seen other people that are motherfuckers who grind, who scrape every last dollar out of your hand if it gets another dollar in theirs, and they've done pretty well too. I'm just at the end of the day, I'm like, I would never want to be them. like they have to live with themselves every day, you know.
There's a quality of life issue, right? But also, we want to be fair to people. We want to be harmonious. But at the same time, you know, there's the right time to be ruthless and relentless, and the wrong time to be ruthless and relentless. There's a right time to be kind and giving, and there's a time to put up boundaries, right? And most people don't realize this. So I think as I'm getting older, and the younger me would have never said this, Darius, is that it's really about balance. And like finding your balance, but being able to move through the world in a way where you're not stepping on people to get to where you're going. And if you need to, you can step around people, you know, you can ask nicely to go through, but But generally speaking, you want to do something that brings value. And you're right. I mean, there are people who do dishonest things who get ahead in life, right? We've all seen them.
Yeah.
But are they happy? I would argue probably not.
No. Hurt people. I'm like, I don't give it, at the end of the day, I'm like, dude, they gotta live with themselves. At the end, dude, when we meet our maker, none of that shit's gonna matter. Their dark soul has to go reincarnate somewhere else and live some fucked up life. I'm not worried about it. So I'd love to pivot here a little bit because I know we're a little deep into the show. So, dude, you're doing some cool stuff now. Talk to us about some of the cool projects you're working on, and then I want to plug the book a little more, just because I know that's coming out, and then we'll get to the greatness question.
Yeah, book's easy. Anybody wants to get it, you can get. I mean, the audiobook's the easy way to go. Lately, I've been way into audiobooks. So it's called Billion.
Yeah.
How I Became King of the Throat Poke Cult. You can get that on Audible. If you want the audiobook, or you can buy the hardcover on softcover on Amazon. My main focus these days has actually been with our podcast agency, Podcast Cola, which you mentioned, which is what got me on the show. And moreover, why I appreciate you being so kind with your comments about our staff. At the end of the day, everything comes down to sales, right? And to be a good salesperson, you got to be a good storyteller. I teach this again to everybody who's in my Amazon course. And by the way, anybody who listens to your show, Darius, I'll give them the course for free. They can just reach out to me. You can put my email in the in the show. I give it out on the air. It's not a problem. It's darkzess@gmail.com. So darkzess@gmail.com. I respond to every single email. It might take me a minute, but I definitely do that. And anybody that wants the course, just mention the show title. But give me the show title again, Darius.
Yeah, the Greatness Machine.
So just put Greatness Machine in the subject heading, and that you want the Amazon course for free, and we'll send that to you free, no charge, no obligation. Just my goal is to empower more people to make money. But the thing that I've been most focused on these days is Podcast Cola, which I started going, hey man, I got a pretty cool story. I wrote this book. The book became a bestseller. And I thought to myself, dude, everybody's telling me. My buddy who used to be the CEO of Sony called me and he's like, dude, I read your book. My mind's blown. I was like, really? You? He's like, this is the most rock and roll thing I've ever read. And he's a best-selling author. He's like a famous guy himself. And he's like, you got to get this made into a movie. I was like, all right, how am I going to do that? It's been a minute since I've been on TV and stuff. And so I was like, oh, podcasting is taking off, right? Joe Rogan really it made all the difference in making podcasting take off. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start doing podcasts, but how? And what happened was I was like, all right, let me just figure it out. Because I hired an agency. They sucked. I hired a publicist. She sucked. And my wife, who's an actual publicist, is like, we can do this, son. So I started an agency, and then I started getting booked on shows just like this one. We call it Podcast Cola, podcastcola.com if anyone's interested. And we started going out there pitching shows until we figured out what the right algorithm was. We started growing our team. We're about 45 people strong now. And what we do is we get people booked on shows. And the great thing is, being a podcaster, is that podcasts are evergreen. They live forever on the internet. People get to connect with you long form, which is very different, right? Like you listening to me and you chat for the last hour is very different from watching a TikTok video or an Instagram ad where it's like 5 seconds, right? So if people are engaged at the end of this show, they feel like they know you. You feel like you know me from my stories, from whatever I tell you. And then it's top of funnel, probably the single most impactful way to double and triple your business, especially if you have a high ticket product, service, coaching, anything like that. So I've been focused in growing this company. This is going to be a 9-figure exit, this company. I think within the next couple of years as podcasting grows. So I've been focused on growing that. We've got a YouTube company called Viral Mirage. It's viralmirage.com. And we do a similar thing, creating YouTube influencers with a really killer hack that we created using 24/7 lives and the live function of YouTube and Instagram to get people accelerated on those platforms. So those have been my focus. Anybody that's interested, just go to podcastcola, podcastcola.com. book a time, or email me directly. I'm always happy to hear from people and learn more about their stories.
Cool, man. This is very cool. I'll check these out. You guys, we'll make sure I put these in the show notes. But yeah, I'm in full agreement. I'm curious to learn more about your business. I'll probably take it with you offline.
Yeah. Totally.
That's cool. I have a model that I've been playing with, that I've launched, that it's like something I'm doing with my friends that's kind of ticking off behind the scenes, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it. So man, Shaahin, what a story, dude. I love your story. I love how entrepreneurial you are. It's like it comes from one Persian brother to another. Like, it's cool to hear that you have that essence about you. But man, you ready for us to do some the greatness question?
Let's
pop
do it.
that off. All right.
Let's do it. Pop it off.
All right. What is the number one barrier to creating greatness that you overcome in your life, and how have you overcome it?
That's super easy. It's just belief in self, right? Know thyself. Probably one of the most important things, I think. And knowing who you are and what you're capable of is essential, but also knowing what you're not capable of and what your weaknesses are and what you suck at. And generally speaking, it comes down to having people around you, good people that mirror those things to you so you can analyze them and take action on them. And that's having a good life partner, having good relationships, having great people around you, people that aren't afraid to tell you that you suck at this and you're bad at this. And the rest comes, like you said, delegating, right? Being able to delegate like a master, but you can only do that when you know your strengths, but more importantly, when you know your weaknesses. And for me, that's really what it was. When I started to realize and come into my own, that self-knowledge of who I am and what I'm great at and what I'm not so great at, that's when everything changed for me.
I love that, man. Such good words of wisdom and such an epic story, man. You guys, we're going to put all this stuff in the show notes. Very grateful for you to offer up the freebie to our audience, and excited for all the great work you're doing, man. It's very cool. The everything from the podcast Cola to the Viral Mirage. And man, I wish you all the luck. I'm excited to meet another great person. And yeah, thanks for coming on the show, Shaahin. Really appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, send me your info and I'll send you a copy of Billion, How I Became King of the Triple Call. I think you'd appreciate a copy. I don't know. Do you read books or do you do Audible? What's your preference?
I'm an Audible guy. If you have an audio version of it, but it's okay.
Yeah,
I know.
Go ahead.
Isn't that annoying? Here, I'm gonna show you, dude. This is my book, and I wrote a book called The Core Value Equation. How do you operationalize core values in your business? And I'm a listener of books, and I'm like, how do I give people free audibles? I don't know how to do it either. But send me the hard copy, and I'll buy your book.
Okay, deal. So I'll send you the hard copy, and send me a copy of yours too. I definitely want to check that out. Do you have an Audible book?
Oh yeah. I have an Audible book.
I'll get your Audible book on Audible.
So all right, tradesies.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. We'll change numbers outside the show.
Awesome, man. You guys listen, please, everyone should share this. This is just such an epic entrepreneurial story. And plus you got to hear me and Shaahin chop up some of our old stories ourselves of us growing up and our backgrounds in the old dance music scene. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, man, this is a story I think everyone should listen to, and I would love to hear them support your book. With that said, until next time, peace out, everybody. We love you. You are listening to The Greatness Machine, and that's a wrap for today. Listen, if you love what you heard, subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform that you're tuning in on so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. We have tons of great people coming on, and we're stoked to have you here to enjoy it with us. Leave us a review. Tell us what you love most about this particular episode. We love getting the reviews. We love to see what you guys love most. And if this particular episode, made you think of someone who's leveling up in their business and in their life, print screen, share it with them. Leaders are the best givers. And after all, we're all here to support and grow with each other. And in case you want to see some of the fun behind the scenes shots or some of the things that we're doing, I'm actually writing about this in my weekly newsletter. Go to www.therealdarius.com and subscribe to my newsletter. We're talking about fun things like business and life and mindfulness and cryptocurrencies and gosh, I don't even know, everything and anything, but it's tons of fun stuff I write about. I try to get it out on a weekly basis. You can subscribe at www.therealdarius.com. And with that said, look, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I love you. Peace. We're out of here. See you guys on the next one.
She's my lover.